Good morning. I am Jennifer Holmes with Joyous Journeys, and I'm here to do something a little bit different today. Instead of an email or newsletter announcing the charity of the month for August, I have decided to interview the charity's founder. So I have with me today Gina Iliopoulos of Keeler Gardens. She is the founder and the chief operations officer. So I'm going to turn it over to Gina to introduce herself and tell us a little bit about herself and what Keeler Gardens is.
Thank you. Gina Iliopoulos here from Keeler Gardens. So our name is so original because we are on Keeler Avenue. So that's why we are called Keeler Gardens. So there's so many stories to tell, but we'll start with focusing on our mission. The work that we do is to offer opportunities to give people chances to be educated on and to spend time in nature, to be inspired through nature connections. And that promotes environmental equity. So all of this is in the direction of our developmental health, our mental health, our physical health. So our mission is to improve urban community living, our health and our community health through these connections with nature. So that's it in a nutshell. And I can tell you stories. So maybe I'll start with briefly how we sort of started out. It was so interesting. In 2012, when I went back to school to focus on horticulture, I actually won a talent search. So I was a national spokesperson for a collaboration between the Home Depot and Miracle-Gro. And so they came to our site and they were filming and there were cameras everywhere. And so the whole community is like, what's going on? And so my husband was so brilliant. He's like, well, we need to document this. You need to have a blog. So he got me keelergardens.com. So I could tell everyone in the community, oh, go to this website. I'll tell you all about it. You can see what's going on. And then we realized after a few years with all of my horticulture knowledge and all my experience, we're like, wait, people are like asking us for help and, what you doing, your garden and this and that. And we thought maybe we should do this as a nonprofit. So we switched our keelergardens.com to keelergardens.org eventually. So because we wanted to be able to share the knowledge, the plants, the concept, the mission, the inspiration, without having to sort of get bogged down with the business side of it. Not that running a nonprofit doesn't have a business side, but with the ability to take in donations, materials, and monetary donations, it allowed us a sort of a different method and a different level of outreach.
Nice. And Keeler Street, where is Keeler Street located?
Yes. So we're actually Keeler Avenue. I don't even understand the street, Avenue, Boulevard in Chicago. So we're on the northwest side of Chicago, Illinois. And there is some tricky knowledge base. So like we're just south of Irving Park Road, just north of Addison Street, I believe. And would you believe I don't even know if it's Addison? No, it's Addison Street. And we are Keeler Avenue. So there's lots of different monikers. So we are on the northwest side of Chicago. So if anyone knows where Wrigley Field is, we're due west of Wrigley Field, a couple miles. And we're sort of halfway between the downtown area and O'Hare Airport. So we're right along the expressway. So we're actually very easily accessible. And for a city space, because we are in the city of Chicago proper, we have a beautiful tree-lined street that sort of looks like a little Main Street USA kind of feel to it. So it's wonderful. Yeah.
And what types of things do you do for the community? What does that green space or your space allow for folks in your community?
So we have like sort of 3 different directions and then a couple of like major future intentions. So on site, we have a physical space. So we live here, but we open the space to the community. So the outdoor space is actually open 24/7 because it's right on the sidewalk. Depending on where you live, you may know what a parkway is. In Chicago, it's the space between the sidewalk and the street. And in our neighborhood, it's quite substantial. It's like 17 feet deep. Okay. So we won a grant to build a pollinator habitat there. And our front yard is all full of produce bearing greenery and ornamentals, decoratives. We have some cultural aspects sewn in. So you're walking down the street and you're there, you're here at Keeler Gardens. And if you know us well enough, and if you're comfortable with it, you're welcome to walk down the side path, which is a tree lined sort of woodland area, and into the back to see the herb garden and the sun and the shade areas and the pergola and the gazebo and the fire pit, the seating areas. We have a tropical area. So on the site, what we've done is we've taken relatively large city space, because our lot is a little bit larger than most city lots. We've taken this really nice space and we've created many little gardens that you could put in your space. Maybe if you have a small deck, or you have just enough room where you want to sit around the fire, or you have just enough space that you want to have a kitchen garden, or you have, you want to do this and that. We have all these different aspects so that anyone in the community can say, I want to include nature in my life for the betterment of myself and my community. How do I do that? So we say, well, what's your space look like? Do you have your own private space? Is it public space? Is it your front yard? Is it your backyard? And we can give you examples and plants, and we can show you how to irrigate, and we can show you how to manage your soil. So it's the whole habitat, the whole environment, for all the way from the simplest thing about your soil, all the way up to, the sociology of it and how the space would affect you and your family and your community. So that's what the site does. The site is for education, for visiting, for immersion, for examples. It's like a pilot to get other communities excited and on board. And we do open up the inside upon appointment for events or for touring, because we have indoor programs that work to incorporate nature into indoor spaces. We have a wonderful program that we show off here.
Nice.
So then that's what we do on the site. And then off-site, we can do a myriad of things. We speak on all of those topics. We have an extensive science-based project that we present on. Again, all about that, from soil, everything you can do to create good soil, rebuild your soil, create a beautiful green space, and how it will affect your community, how it'll affect your nutrients in your produce that you might grow, how you can incorporate other things besides just getting your hands dirty. So we have community cats and beehives. And then we also speak on our other projects, like how we built our pollinator habitat and how we're doing our vision trees and our vision gardens. So that's all of our, we'll speak. Hey, you want us to come speak for you? We'll come speak. We can do it via Zoom, or we can come physically and do a presentation, or if you're interested, you could come visit us, And then the third method by which we promote this environmental equity is these big programs. It's the vision trees and the vision gardens. So it's actually a comprehensive program where a team is on board, let's say a school or even a corporation, big, small, but you have a space, you have a wall, let's say, or a wall and a ceiling, because some of these things go up to the ceiling. We have an artist and we have a facilitator. And we sit down and we chat about your values, your business, your focus, your energy, your accomplishments, your successes, your challenges, what you want to communicate to the people who walk through this space, whether it's, you want to inspire your students or you want to inform your guests. And then Paula, our artist, she takes everything she learned with a few additional questions and she creates a tree. She paints it on canvas, and it's like a puzzle, and then she comes and wallpapers it on, so it's like a mural in the space. It's unbelievable. It's phenomenal. Yeah, it's an incredible project. So that one we're hoping to have some grants to get some sponsorship and grants to do in schools and areas in the community and anywhere. And also groups we would hope would sponsor, let's say a corporation wants to do this or a business wants to do this in their space, and then they would sponsor one for a local school.
Oh, nice. That's a great idea. I know that you've done some things with art as well. So you do like reclaimed art. Can you talk about that a little bit?
So that is one of the things that we can pretty much do anywhere. It's a program that we developed with a small grant. Chicago had it was called Shy Biz Strong, sort of like infusing some dollars into some businesses and organizations that were impacted in 2020. And so we won a small grant, and we actually worked with a different artist. Her name is Heather Goes. She's a phenomenal watercolorist, illustrator. And she helped us just figure out ways to upcycle different materials. So we had a few things on hand, and we wanted it to be a situation where we could teach people, whatever you have on hand, get connected by just working with it, touch it, cut it, put it together, mix colors. So we did this with what we had on hand was paper and material. We had so much paper. We had tissue paper, wrapping paper, material galore. And we happen to have a die cutter, and you can do this by hand, but what we do is we take our die cutter and it cuts out patterns. So it's like these layers of material in like a petal pattern with a hole in the center. And we went through 4 or 5 iterations, but we finally came up with a plan. We use antique buttons, because who doesn't have a pile of buttons somewhere in their sewing kit? And I had boatloads of buttons from my grandmother. And we string a button onto just a fine piece of wire, which had been donated. We had all these materials. And then you layer these pieces of cloth through that little hole. They have different sizes, so it goes from large to small. You start with the small and you go to large, and you can pick your colors, you can pick your material. So it can be a fine material like a tissue paper, or it can be a heavy material like a felt or a velvet. And you just layer, and then when you flip it over, it's a flower. And it's phenomenal. I should have had the foresight to have one to show you. We did this at a school, and so we had all these things just laying down. And this girl, she took her button, and she did the small piece, and then the big piece, and then the big, and she did a couple layers. She held it, and she put the button on the end to tie it off, and then she turned it around, and she looked at it, and she's like, she was stupefied because it looked like a flower. And so what we're trying to educate on is that you can connect with nature in this way, because paper, cloth, all these materials are nature connected, but you can also they can also have some profound meaning. Like, use the first, straight A report card that you got. I know things are digital now, but print it, put it on some paper, and then you cut it into these pieces, and then your straight A's are in your flower. Or use a copy of your child's birth certificate or their baby blanket. So instead of throwing these things away or just holding on to them forever, what we're doing is we're finding ways to be inspired and connected to the community, to nature, to ourselves, to our family, more inspired and more connected to all these different things. So we'll use, like, my husband's a photographer, and what we'll do is when he prints a picture and it doesn't work out right, we'll use it and we'll make a flower out of it, because who cares if there's an imperfection in it? And then also you embrace imperfections that way. And it was this simple program that we can do anywhere. That's the easiest one. The other aspect of it is we also use stone and wood for this. So we got a donation of this big box of wood, and we're like, what do we do with this? And so we just took a word burner and we just started writing inspirational messages on it. And now this is a very formal one, because this one's sealed and piled up together, but we have smaller pieces and it's just one word. So students can be inspired with a font or a design, and they draw on it something simple or something with a little, extraordinary nature to it. And then I take either a wood burner or an etcher, and then I either dig into the wood with like a Dremel, so that it's permanently etched, or I burn it in with the wood burner.
Nice. That's very cool.
Yeah, and the etcher you can also use on stone. So we use old tiles and glass. Someone donated a box of extra tile that they had. So this is ways, again, simple things that anybody can do. And if you don't want to deal with a wood burner or an etcher, we did it for the permanence of it, but you can use a Sharpie. You can use a permanent marker, and then all you have to do is put like one of those little picture hangers on the back of it, and you hang it on the wall, and you've got like a series of inspirations. And it's made of natural material. So stone isn't living per se, like a plant is living, but imagine the difference between a simple wall with maybe, some artwork that isn't as nature oriented. Maybe it's not as inspired. Maybe it wasn't your choice. Maybe you didn't choose it. Maybe it was there already, like in an office. You can take like 6 pieces of old tile, put a couple backings on them, put your personal inspirations, put them on your wall, and suddenly you're inspired. Your whole life changes. So that's what we're trying to do with our programming.
Nice. And so the donations that you'll receive, because you are going to be the featured charity for August, and hopefully we'll get lots of donations. Hopefully we'll have lots of people booking vacations, and we'll be able to, make that partnership really great. What will those donations enable the Keeler Gardens to be able to do?
So in general, everything we spoke about costs money. So the biggest one is maintaining the space actually is very labor intensive. It is truly a labor of love, but it's labor intensive. There has to be a person doing it, and that person really should get paid. We do have a lot of volunteers who come and go, and there is a handful of work that can be done in a volunteer basis. But as a plant health specialist managing plant health, we need a full-time individual to manage the space. They have things to do on a regular basis every April, every May, every June, every January, every December. And we actually are full-time. We work in the space all the way through just after the holidays. And we take a week or two off, maybe a little more outside, and then we get back to work sometime in mid-February or mid-March. But then there's other things to do, like sharpening tools and rearranging the shed, so there's facilities management. So we would love to have the ability to grow economically, to have some economic development and have some workforce development and support the community with jobs. So a full-time property manager for sure. And then maybe one or two part-time people. And at this point in time, I myself don't pull a salary for my all of my devotion, because this is my more than full-time work. And I would love to have enough in our funds to pull a salary. That would be awesome. But to have someone to work the space would be great. And then, of course, there's a whole bunch of overhead costs, like who does your marketing, who does your books, who does your HR, it would support some of that. Some of our development, like we're trying to develop a more formalized strategic plan. And we would love to have a PR specialist sort of month to month. And that's like a monthly fee.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's some other overhead costs, things that we do to support the space. My husband, Ed, who's one of our founders also, but he works with us on this facilitation side. He's rigged the house for sound, and we want to rig it for lighting so that we can have a more immersive experience. And so that would go to some of those special costs and materials, things like hoses and plants and such. And then for the speaking engagements, there are some travel expenses that if anyone really wanted us to come speak, maybe they would want to sponsor us, pay the cost of our travel, our airfare, our hotel. We're traveling, actually, we're so proud to say this. We are going to the American Psychological Association next month in August. Oh, when this airs, it will probably already be August. So in August, their 2023 conference, and we're speaking, myself, Ed, and one of our major donors is a psychologist, and she's our chair. She's going to be leading our symposium. So that, that's a distance for us. So we have to stay overnight, we have to travel. So if you're interested in supporting us to spread the word more for speaking engagements and really promoting policy change, that's where some of your dollars would go. And then lastly, the program, the vision trees. So we figure that to run the program smoothly with the proper staffing, each tree is about $10,000, because Paula is an extraordinary artist. It takes her at least 2 weeks to create that tree, because it has to be sealed, and then we have to install it, and that takes labor. And then Ed is a facilitator, and that's labor. So if each tree is 10,000, and let's say we want to do 1 tree a month, we need probably $10,000 a month, which would be fantastic if we had a sponsor who wanted to do that. And then we wouldn't have to tax the schools with the cost of that tree. So that's where some of your dollars are going. And then long-term, very quickly, 2 programs. We're trying to create an environmental equity center as sort of an example of a space that should be in every community to guide communities on sound soil, sound spaces, sound community development, economic development. And we're also trying to develop a PhD program to support that economic development that would be interdisciplinary. So it would be soil science, like biology and chemistry, but it would also touch on psychology and sociology and community development and other aspects. So that's where all your dollars will go. And then as we grow, maybe more people and more opportunities. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's my honor. And just, my own little plug, like who's the one that's who's the travel agent you chose for your Washington DC trips?
So we use Jennifer Holmes from Joyous for virtually everything because and again, this has to do with our experience. Your devotion to your people, you are amazing. You're just, it's like we know you love what you do because you do it actively and assertively and you get things done. And you're okay with, oh yeah, I'll sit on the phone. I'll sit right here by the phone every day until the job is done. I'll call who I need to call you're fantastic. So I'm confident that this entire program, that people will have so much fun and that they will, through you, everything will go smoothly. And then once they get here, they'll have a blast, whether they're doing it from a sponsorship perspective, or they want to get their hands dirty, or they just want us to take them around all the beautiful gardens. Whatever method we want to use, I am sure that it's going to prove to be extraordinary. We're going to have a great time. Definitely.
I believe that. So what Gina is talking about here is we eventually plan to do some immersive experiences that people will be able to go and visit and stay. So a stay and play, a stay and reclaimed art, a stay for someone who wants to bring this space to their own communities. So we are working on developing these programs that you would be able to book through me into the space that Gina and Ed have created. So
keeping that so that people will be like, oh, tell me more.
Yeah. Well, Gina, it was such a privilege to be able to talk to you today and learn more and be able to bring this to other people. And I just appreciate the fact that we have such a great partnership and that I can hopefully bring some more donations to Keeler Gardens through what I get to do. So.
Well, thank you so very much. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to work together. I'm so excited to meet all these wonderful people who want to come and see us, or who want to donate, or who want to learn more. Our website is keelergardens.org. And you can reach me that way, Gina at keelergardens.org. Really simple.
Nice.
Keeler is how we spell Keeler, just in case, because there is a spelling hiccup that we've gone through in a few times. So yeah. Keelergardens.org, and we will see you all soon, I hope.
Thank you so much.